Okay, so welcome everybody. And before we formally start, I would like to acknowledge country. So I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the many lands across Australia and actually beyond in which we are all joining today. I pay my respects to the elders past and present, and I extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people with us here. So recognise their enduring connections to country, culture and community, and their vital role in learning and knowledge sharing. Just a few housekeeping rules. You'll have noticed that I have press recording, so we are recording this session today. So we do ask you keep your mics on mute unless you're speaking to avoid the background noise. Feel free to share your reflections and comments in the chat as we go, including the lands on which you are joining today. There is time for questions and discussions following the presentations. And also, if you experience any technical issues, please pop that in the chat and we will try to troubleshoot. So to open our program, I'd like to hand over to Leonie.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Climate Action, Creating Community Circular Hubs. I'm Dr. Leonie Wheeler, the Honorary CEO of the Australian Learning Communities Network, and I'm delighted to be your MC today. A little bit about the Australian Learning Communities Network. It was established in 2001 and is a national body supporting learning cities and learning communities in Australia. It promotes sustainable and inclusive communities through lifelong learning, adapting international frameworks such as the UNESCO's Global Network of Learning Cities into practical strategies for local Australian contexts. UNESCO has guided learning cities to meet the global challenge of climate change in the lifelong learning space. For example, the Marrakesh Framework for Action promotes adult learning and education as a key lever for addressing climate change and empowering youth and adults as agents of change. Last year, the 6th International Conference on Learning Cities adopted the Jabal Commitment, with cities worldwide pledged to strengthen lifelong learning for climate action by aligning education with climate policies. There is also currently a webinar series on climate change education for social transformation. These links will be put in your chat. The Australian Climate Service recent National Climate Risk Assessment report noted that climate impacts like heat waves, droughts and natural disasters are intensifying, and communities must become more connected, resilient and adaptive. Transitioning to a circular economy and reducing consumption are seen as urgent priorities. This forum will discuss community circular hubs, physical spaces that provide circular economy services such as repair, workshops, recycling, tool libraries, education and community gardens. Developed by Green Industries South Australia, a 2024 guide outlines how to establish these hubs at various scales from small to large to promote sustainability, affordability and community connection. Today we have 60 minutes together and I encourage you to engage actively. As our first speaker starts her presentation, please think of questions that you want to ask and put them in the chat and we'll as we go along. There'll be 10 minutes Q&A at the end of the first presentation, while the second presenter will engage you in a Menti activity where you can list the programs in your neighbourhood and organisations that contribute to the local circular economy. So you have to have your ideas ready for the Menti activity as well. So now it gives me great pleasure to introduce Shani Wood, Lead Educator, Green Industries South Australia. Shani is the Principal Advisor for Education at Green Industries South Australia, where she is responsible for the development of circular economy themed community initiatives, including the recent Set Your Clothes Free Textile Donation Initiative, and leading the development of the Community Circular Hubs Guide, Shani has been working in the environmental sector since 2009 and has 12 years experience working in local government with the City of Holdfast Bay, where she has developed and implemented several successful innovative waste projects, including trialling compostable bags in local supermarkets and the council-wide rollout of weekly food organics garden organics or FOGO and fortnightly waste bin collections. Over to you, Shani.
Thank you, Leonie. It's always awkward hearing your biography, but thank you for that. I'd also like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land which I'm meeting upon today, the Kaurna people, and pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. 60,000 years, our First Nation people have been practicing many, many examples of the circular economy. So there's so much that we can learn from First Nation folk. So yeah, like Leonie said, my name's Shani. I work for Green Industries SA. We're the South Australian state government body in charge of helping our community and businesses move towards a circular economy. So we're similar to Sustainable Victoria and parts of the EPA New South Wales, and we're funded through the Waste Levy. Just want to check, can everyone see my screen? Thumbs up. Thanks, Benita. Great. So I promise this is the one and only sciencey slide I have today. When we're talking about a circular economy, it really is the missing piece of if we want to reach net zero. As Australians, in particular in South Australia, we're doing a great job at cutting our emissions, moving towards renewable energy. But unfortunately, a big part of the puzzle to reach net zero is moving towards a circular economy. So that's looking at the ways we design, use, and dispose of products. So 45% of the emission reductions, if we want to reach net zero, are going to have to come from moving to a circular economy. For Australia, it's quite a difficult task. Our economy is only 4.5% circular, and the global average is actually 9%. So it's going to be really hard for Australia because we have such a huge mining sector, but it doesn't mean that there's still huge opportunities for us to help lower our emissions through moving to a circular economy. So a good example here, so we can see this is global greenhouse gas emissions. 11.9% of emissions come from agriculture, forestry, and other land use. So an example of this is when you think about food waste. So it takes a lot of resources to produce food, and if we're not using it properly and we're sending it to landfill, we're then producing methane, which is 20 times worse for the environment than carbon dioxide. So one of the best things that you can do for the environment in terms of the circular economy is make sure we're putting all of our food scraps in the FOGO bin and not wasting food. So I'm going to be using a lot of South Australian examples, but I'm sure there's many examples across Australia. We actually have a lot of fantastic circular services and goods already. So some examples in South Australia are the Reuse and Recycling Hub, where residents can come drop off things that can't go in their curbside bins to be recycled. So we've got fluorescent light globes, glasses, mobile phones, bread bag tags, printer cartridges, and blister packs. We've also got the Shed, which is a makerspace aimed at senior citizens, and the City of Port Adelaide Enfield's makerspace and media room. Similar to Food Bank, there's an organisation called Grocer with a Heart in South Australia, and that's open to anyone. You just have to pay $3 to enter, and it's really low priced food. So that's fantastic. Anyone who's struggling, they don't have to be on a concession, can come along and access surplus food at a low price. We've got the IWS Education Centre educating the communities about recycling and reuse, and a library of things at the City of Onkaparinga. So we know there's a lot of fantastic circular goods and services across Australia, but there are limitations to getting our community to come along to change the behaviour to start our movement towards a circular economy. So when we're talking about any behaviour change, it's all about convenience. So I've got a picture there might seem a bit unusual on the slide, but this is an example of a compostable bag in a supermarket. So in South Australia, all barrier bags for fruit and vegetables now have to be compostable. And that is a fantastic initiative because it means you can use these compostable bags, put your food scraps into your kitchen caddy, and then into your FOGO bin to be composted. Before this initiative, people had to go to their local council to grab their rolls of compostable bags. Most people don't go to their councils once a year, and they're always going to the supermarket. So it's all about convenience when it comes to behaviour change. So the main barriers that we have in our community to access current circular services include lack of skills. So people feel like they don't have the skills to repair. Lack of awareness. So like I mentioned, there are fantastic initiatives out there, but a lot of the community doesn't know about it. Inconvenient access. So they might be far away from where you're living, and they could only be open maybe once morning every month. So unless you're available every second Saturday of the month, for example, you're not going to reach out to that repair cafe, and a lack of inclusivity. So my example is from the city of Holdfast Bay. We had a men's shed. So obviously it was only really open to men. And not only was it not only just open to men, you generally had to be a Vietnam veteran to access their services. Then we also had an example of a community garden, but to have a plot, you had to pay to be a member. So when we're thinking about circular goods and services, we really want to make them inclusive and can convene as much as possible. So that's where the concept of a circular hub has come from. So like Leonie mentioned, a community circular hub is a physical location providing citizens with a convenient access to a suite of circular goods and services, such as a makerspace and repair hub, community garden, education centre, a library of things, resource drop-off point, and access to surplus food. There's also opportunities to include Indigenous place naming and Indigenous foods within a community garden. So we launched the Community Circular Hub Guide in November last year. We had about 60 people attend the event, and we have already supported 2 waste transfer stations with a feasibility and master plan in the hope that they will be developing a circular hub soon. When it comes to the principles for design and operation, like we mentioned, a circular hub really needs to be convenient and accessible. A really good stat is people are only willing to travel 7 minutes to donate their clothes. So you want to have it somewhere that's really accessible for a lot of the community, close to public transport as well. It needs to be relevant, and we don't want to be repeating what we've already got out there. So again, thinking about the city of Holdfast Bay, we were a small council. We had plenty of op shops in the area. So if the city of Holdfast Bay was to open a circular hub, you wouldn't necessarily have an op shop in the circular hub. You might have special days with a clothes swap or showing Christmas secondhand decorations, but you wouldn't have a permanent op shop there. It needs to be inclusive, it needs to support existing initiatives, and it needs to be attractive and climate sensitive. So we don't want to rebuild something from the ground up with virgin materials because that kind of defeats the purpose. So as well as the obvious environmental benefits of a circular hub, there's also the social benefits. When we think about the loneliness epidemic, a lot of people think it's more of the older generation that suffer from loneliness. It's actually Gen Z. So a survey of over 40,000 people found that Gen Z, 75% of Gen Z people said that they experience loneliness compared to people over 60, which was only a quarter. So Circular Hub is a fantastic opportunity to come along, meet new members in the community, build those relationships and learn new skills. And there's obviously the economic benefits as well. So when we're sending waste to landfill, it's not supporting many jobs at all. So it's only supporting 2.9 full-time jobs for every 10,000 tonnes of waste sent to landfill. Reusing items actually supports 69 times that, and recycling items supports 21 times that figure as well. So there's so many economic, environmental and social benefits to moving towards a circular economy and making it easy for our community to come along for the journey. So in our guide, we've identified that there's 3 scales of circular hubs. So the smaller scale, a neighbourhood hub, which would be somewhere like in a strata or multiple unit dwelling. You then have the council or citywide hub, so the medium-sized hub, which would be in a council, an NGO, or another organisation. For councils, this might look like somewhere like your community centres. So you might have a community centre that you want to activate and you have a lot of spare space there. That could potentially become a hub as well. And then a mega hub is somewhere like a commercial organisation, council subsidiary, or another organisation. So when I've been talking about those two waste transfer stations that have received grant funding from Green Industries SA, that would be a mega hub. So looking at the three scales, the first one we have is a neighbourhood circular hub. A neighbourhood circular hub may include things like a share shed for residents to borrow items such as tools, tents, specialised cooking equipment. There's a case study in the hub guide if you're interested. Space is really limited, especially as our houses get smaller and smaller. So having a share shed where we can reuse items over and over again is a great way to move towards a circular economy. A fun fact, your average power drill is only used for 13 minutes in its lifetime. So if every household in Australia had a power drill and it was only being used for 13 minutes, that's a huge waste of energy and resources. But if we're putting a power drill in a share shed, it's going to be used more often. A neighbourhood circular hub would also have a resource drop-off point for donating those tricky items such as clothing, container deposits, e-waste and cardboard. You might have a small community garden and a shared pantry. The management model would potentially be run by a resident group. So you might have a passionate resident within the strata itself, or the building manager. And we've also looked at what kind of spatial requirements you might need for a circular hub. In a neighbourhood, it would be anywhere between 25 to 100 metres squared, which would depend on what services and facilities that hub would offer. Moving on to the council or citywide hub. Here you would have a makerspace and repair hub, a food hub, which is where people can come along and donate surplus food, but also an opportunity for larger organisations to redistribute surplus food from local businesses and charities. A library of things, a community garden, an event and retail space, and a circular education centre. So lots of councils, they run sustainable workshops, so it would be the perfect opportunity and location to host those workshops, as well as a resource drop-off point. So again, there's an example of the resource drop-off point of the City of Adelaide. The hubs are obviously really well suited to councils, but they can also be run by not-for-profit organisations. So we have the Conservation Council in Adelaide, and they've just found a new location, and they are setting up somewhat of a small circular hub as well. And the last scale is our mega hub. So these are large scale facilities that are open to the public, and they're often co-located at a transfer station. So you'd have a drop-off station, a larger scale makerspace and repair hub, a second-hand shopping mall, and a circular education centre, bringing community groups together. Right, I did have an example there, but it seems to have come out of my slide. In Sweden, there is a giant shopping mall, and everything in that shopping mall is second-hand. So they make over $1 million a year profit, supports a lot of jobs, and they make 700 sales a day. So that's making a social norm around buying second-hand first. So other useful resources, we're really big on not reinventing the wheel at Green Industries SA, and we're big on promoting other jurisdictions' good work. So Sustainable Victoria have developed a community circular economy guides, which is looking at those different types of circular goods and services, and a how-to guide to set one up. And Shareable have also developed a Library of Things toolkit, which is a comprehensive guide to start and growing a sharing hub in your community. If you are listening to this and you're from South Australia, we actually have our council modernisation grants opened now. So if you're affiliated with a council or you're a group within the council, this is a really good opportunity for you to reach out to the council and talk about what we need to set up a community hub in the area. Council modernisation grants offer up to $100,000 matched funding. So if you're interested, please look at our Green Industries website. Oh, there it is. So here's an example of, I'm not going to attempt to pronounce that because I'll get it wrong. But this is a secondhand shopping mall in Sweden. So yeah, like I said, 700 sales a day. A fantastic place to be, lovely feel, and it's supporting the local economy as well. And I've rushed through that, but that's it from me. And I'm always here to talk about circular hubs. So if you'd like to reach out to me and you have any more questions, please feel free to. That's my email there. And the QR code there is to reach to the guide. So thank you. But while I've got you, again, I know Leonie, she quickly mentioned we had a Set Your Clothes Free initiative in May. We're actually running another one on November 1. So in May, we only had 8 locations across Adelaide, but we received almost 12 tonnes of resellable clothes and 8 tonnes of linen for mechanical recycling. We've expanded to 13 locations. So we're in Mount Gambier, Whyalla and Berry Barmera for regional locations and 10 across Adelaide. So good quality clothing and footwear that you would donate to give to a friend. Charities would love that. And any quality linen, as long as it's washed, we will take, and then we will send it to Apparel in Melbourne to be mechanically recycled into housing insulation. Great, thank you.
Thank you very much, Shani. That was really fascinating and something close to my heart, I think. And very positive initiatives from South Australia. And you did mention Victoria, and around the country there are these initiatives going on. And I think that when you think about these climate assessment reports, you can be overwhelmed with negative energy and doom and gloom. But actually what you said to us is that we on the ground can make a practical difference. And the fact that we haven't got enough circular economy going on in Australia yet, but we as people on the ground can actually do something. And I think that that was a positive message that came out of your talk, and you outlined very practical solutions that, but people have to have skills and share those skills. You have to improve the awareness of what is going on in our community, and make sure that access is convenient, so you don't have to go too far to share your clothes, etc., and make it inclusive. I did note you did mention men's sheds, and you mentioned men's sheds in your booklet too. They are becoming increasingly inclusive,
Yes,
and I'm glad to hear that, because it was a great initiative of adult education to have men's sheds, and they are internationally renowned in both Australia and the UK and other countries. So I'm glad to see that they're becoming more inclusive, and they've got a lot of equipment and a lot of talented people in there who know how to do repairs.
Absolutely.
You've outlined we have many assets in our community. I love the case study from Sweden, and I'm sure our South Australians would have loved you talking about funding. So thanks very much for that. That was great, and we already have questions, so I'll get on to those questions. One coming from Chloe. Do you want to come talk to your question, Chloe, or would you prefer me to read it out?
Yeah, I'm happy to speak. That might be easier. I actually have my mum and dad live in Adelaide. I spent many years in Adelaide. So I notice on a regular basis, and apologies, I very much have a waste education hat on right now for this specific question.
I love it.
But the catchphrase caught me of convenience. And I see my parents use the compostable bags from the supermarkets. So my question's around because we have very different messaging here in Melbourne. I'm in Melbourne. We have very different messaging around what compostable bags are accepted in our FOGO bins. And so I was curious around, firstly, how you got the supermarkets involved. Is that a legislated thing? And that's a very short question, so I'll just kind of finish off by also asking, and part of that is how did you have any challenges with the composting facilities accepting these compostable bags that do look quite similar to plastic bags? Yeah, they'd be some big challenges I think we'd face in Victoria.
Yeah, thanks, Chloe. We are really lucky in South Australia in that we have windrow composting facilities. So I think in Victoria and New South Wales, it's more in vessel. So that means it takes a lot longer for compostable packaging to break down, which is one of the issues is why they don't really like compostable bags. But yeah, fingers crossed that compostable bags are still allowed because that's such a big part of getting people to put food scraps in those kitchen caddies and into their FOGO bin. So yes, it was a part of our single-use plastic bans, and it happened September last year. It actually, again, started in the City of Holdfast Bay. So we worked with 2 local Foodlands. They're like an IGA for other states. And the stats showed that within a 2-kilometre radius, people that went to those shops increased their food recycling by 300%. So it is all about convenience for our community. There is a company called BioBag in Adelaide, and they supply a lot of Australia's compostable bags. So I believe they're doing Coles, and Woolworths are as well. So they have to be certified. So yeah, all supermarkets, anywhere that sells a barrier bag for fruit and vegetables now has to be compostable.
Brilliant, thank you. And so just to clarify, has it been a federal government support with that too in terms of mandating that's how it's part of the single-use plastic ban?
Yeah, so South Australia, I think we're the only state with the barrier bag legislation, but we're trying to do a lot of harmonisation between jurisdictions. So I guess that's one success story. And not success story was that we really wanted to ban fruit stickers here in South Australia. And we had a lot of pushback from the fruit industry because South Australia is so small. And they were worried about the price increase of using compostable stickers. I don't necessarily think a sticker is necessary on a piece of fruit, but we have just waited. We're waiting a few years until New South Wales ban fruit stickers as well. So yes, we do work close with other states.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Thank you, Chloe, for that question and for your answer, Shani. And now we have a question from Diane. Diane, do you want to ask your question, please?
Yeah, happy to. Thank you. And thank you, Shani, for a fascinating presentation. Yeah, just wondering about how you manage the storing of food at the food hub. I'm thinking particularly fresh food. How do you manage the sort of turnover to ensure that it is staying as good a quality as possible?
So Grocery for the Heart, that example, that's run out of a church, and they're not for profit. I believe they got a lot of funding through a member of the church, and it's set up like a supermarket. So I don't know if you've gone to a food bank before. They have fridges as well, and so they have volunteers there day to day that would make sure that the fresh produce is moving. In a circular hub, whilst sort of the community model lends itself well to a council, you would definitely need some with special background or volunteers to come on board to help manage if you were going to have sort of a food hub set up. I might just quickly mention as well, I think libraries are very much a key piece when we're talking about a circular hub. Libraries often run their own workshops, sometimes sustainable as well. And with the way libraries are changing, this is a real opportunity for some librarians to help with the development of a circular hub. It's a library of things as well. So it lends itself really well to being involved in a library network as well. And Leonie, when you spoke about the doom and gloom, I think, that you can definitely feel that in South Australia at the moment, especially with the algal bloom. But in a few weeks' time, hopefully we're going to hear that Adelaide is going to be hosting the United Nations Climate Change Conference next year. So that will hopefully energise the state, and hopefully we'll see a lot more funding going towards showcasing the circular economy. and hopefully around Australia as well. I have this idea that I want Robert Irwin to come down, but I don't know if management's going to be on board with that.
Oh, thank you for that, Shani.
Thanks,
I hope
Shani.
you do get COP30. That would be good. And the UNESCO webinars that we mentioned earlier, they are talking about on the path to COP30. So that might be of interest if you want to look at them. We've got a few minutes just for another question. If anyone has a question from our audience, we have a question from Freya. Freya, do you want to? Can you go online and talk to?
You're on mute, Leonie.
I'll read it. Freya says, how to reduce food wastage. Often I hear that tons of fruit and vegetables are going to landfill, while the prices of fruit and vegetables remain high in the supermarkets and shops, especially in regional areas. So that's one of those issues. How do you deal with that?
I'm so sorry. I'm in my office today, and I don't know if you can hear my dogs barking in the background. I've closed the door, but there's clearly someone who's walked past they don't like. Yeah, food waste is such a huge issue. So only a third of what is produced makes its way onto the supermarket floor. So I think we really need to start sending a message to supermarkets that we don't care what the fruit and veg looks like. So we're starting to see a bit of impact in Coles and Woolworths. I forget the name of, they've got like a branding around fruits and vegetables that don't look perfect. But we've got a long way to go. So I think there's also an opportunity there for things like farms to access the surplus food as well. But yes, it's a big issue. We've got people in Australia that can't get enough food, and we've got all this food going to waste. A good app wasn't developed in South Australia. It's called Save Full. So we've been pushing that to our community. I think it's around Australia as well. So it encourages people to go through their pantries and you enter in what ingredients you have at home and it spits out a recipe for you. And I believe they've got 40,000 members across Australia and it's free. So that's a really good opportunity for community to reduce not only their food waste, but their food bills as well.
Shani, perhaps you could put the name of that in the chat for people. And our next question is about grant funding to establish hubs. And I think you did say there was grant funding in South Australia. So maybe you could, Save Full. Maybe you could put that in the hub as well, the link to the grant funding that you have. And if anyone else from around Australia knows of that, I believe that would just be for people in South Australia, wouldn't it? And if anyone else from other states knows of any other funding you want to share today, just put it in the chat as well. I think now we can finish with that Q&A area and we go on to our next presenter. And of course, ALCN member Benita Parsons, and we're always very pleased to have Benita with us. Benita is the Community Learning Leader Libraries for the City of Port Adelaide Enfield, and she's worked in local government public libraries in Adelaide for 20 years, much of that time coordinating programs for children, youth and adults. Benita also has experience leading community centres, cultural diversity, and was operations lead opening the new Aboriginal Cultural Centre in Port Adelaide. And I haven't practiced that name, Benita, so you'll have to say it. She sees public libraries as places that provide equitable access to information, learning opportunities, technology and social connection. Literacy skills and access to lifelong learning opportunities are vital for personal growth, professional skills development, entrepreneurship and active citizenship. And she holds a Bachelor of Arts in Library and Information Management and a Certificate in Project Management. Her current role includes marketing and STEM and makespacer programs, and I know she's passionate about sustainability because she led a sustainability forum last year and supporting reconciliation with First Nations. And we're very pleased to welcome you today, Benita, to hear about your work.
Thank you. I think I've shared the wrong screen. Why is it looking like that? I know you can see these slides. Oh. Feel free to jump in and tell me how to make that look. There we go. Okay. So thank you, Leonie and Shani, and it's been great to chat with Shani a couple of times in the lead up to this workshop and have you share your knowledge with all of us today. I want to talk quickly about what we are doing at City of PA Libraries. We do have a particular focus on sustainability in our Parks Library, and that's something that we have talked a bit about before in the past with our makerspace. But we also have a repair cafe that's linked to the makerspace. That's once a month. It is run by staff, one of our STEM educators, but also supported by volunteers, and that is every month people can bring whatever they need to repair, including electrical items, and we do have a number of successful repairs each month. At Parks, we do also have a grocery hub, so that is our food hub, but it's supported by the Children's Centre, which is just across the way from the library. They have a community garden, and if they have surplus food in their community garden, they bring that over to the grocery cart, and then the community can pick it up. So in answer to Diane's question of how we make sure that that food stays fresh, it's fresh food that's donated from the garden. It needs to be kind of picked up that day, but the community have a pretty high awareness that it's there, so they will keep an eye on it, and things do move pretty quickly. We do also have a low-cost supermarket that is there every month at Parks, so that is food that's available for low cost, and if they have things like bread that is going to be go stale very quickly, if they don't sell it all that day, they'll just leave it in the community kitchen in the library and people can help themselves. So there's a couple of different ways we handle the food sharing models. We also have volunteers running sewing classes, a couple of sessions on weekends and some during the week, so people can repair but also learn to sew using sewing machines in the libraries, and those machines are available in the makerspace whenever the library is open as well. We do have some new recycle stations, and I've got a picture of one here. We got some grant funding working in partnership with City of PA's waste education team. So we've got 2 of these new recycle hubs from source separation systems, and we could say which types of materials we wanted, and then it was custom built with the right kind of slots and cupboards to be able to meet the needs of our community. So that's the new one that's actually our infield library, but we will be putting these in each of our 5 library sites. What's a little bit different about this reuse and recycle hub is we also have a couple of empty slots for people to put in other things they want to share. The motivation behind that was to be able to share some of the packaging that we get in the library when we have our new books delivered. There's a whole lot of bubble wrap and packaging and things that comes that we need to find a way to reuse before we recycle or compost those materials. So we're putting bubble wrap and things like that in there for people to come and grab, which I'm excited about and seeing how that gets used. The other slots in terms of CDs, DVDs, printer cartridges, X-rays, glasses and e-waste, we have deliberately chosen items that library staff don't need to deal with. We have service providers that will come in, they will take care of those items and they will put them into their services that they, the lines that collect the eyeglasses and then send them on to other countries. And the e-waste providers, so it doesn't put extra work onto the library team. There is a cost involved in obviously engaging with those services, but it's not a staffing cost. They come in and will deal with that waste for us. So that's a very considered choice about what we put in that recycle hub. But I do recommend solid separation systems, and I was pretty happy with how that turned out and how they look. Part of the grant funding was to have some pamphlets to go alongside that to help explain to people how it works, what they can recycle and where it goes. So there's an element of community education in there too. We do also have event space and recycling and gardening workshops in all of our libraries across the year. So we are doing a lot of things that a community circular hub would do, but we just don't call it that. So it's kicked off a bit of a conversation now with Shani to say, are we not? What might that look like to get to the next level? So watch this space. Then other part in Super Port Adelaide Enfield, we do have our own recycling authority, CARA, Central Adelaide Waste Recycling Authority, between us and the neighbouring council, the City of Charles Sturt. They have been piloting a soft plastics collection, which is so popular. I know we all miss not having the soft plastics where we can use through the Red Cycle program. So we're working on this now at small scale to make it achievable, and then hopefully get bigger and bigger over the coming years. But in our circular economy strategy for this waste facility, they really did identify the need for education. People are not always motivated to recycle right, and we see a high proportion of people still putting things in the wrong bins, in their curbside bins. So there's a role that we all have to play in that education to show people what goes in there, the recycle and the food waste bins, and make sure we can support them to do that. So now that's all I wanted to share, but happy to take questions on those kind of more practical tips. But I'd love to hear from all of you now, just to share a little bit about what you are doing in your local library, your community centre, your council, your organisation. If you can join in the Menti, there's QR code, or go to menti.com and the code there. It's just a word cloud, so just pop in some quick keywords about what it is that you are doing, and then we'll be able to give a bit of a snapshot as to what's popular, what a lot of people are doing across the country, and give us an idea. So hopefully that's working and you can see. And Sharon has also put it in the chat, thank you. Thank you, Shani. Yeah, the code is 3435458294. I'm not seeing anything come through. Is this working?
Yes, it's working for me, Benita. I've been submitting some responses.
Okay, cool. I can see it there, so maybe it's just not working in the slide. I will share. It's working. Okay, so I will change. So I can see a lot of people have got library of themes. We've got a big makerspace, seed library, some tool libraries, my home, energy and water, sewing and secondhand, batteries, community recycling, plant and produce swaps, resource drop-off lockers, some soft plastic recyclings as well, fabric and yarn swaps, that's a cool idea. Sewing classes as well. Community library box, lots of street libraries, we do have a place. So it's definitely looking like seed library and library of things are the key commonalities that a lot of places are offering. Curbside gardening, that's great too, making use of all of the land that we have. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. It looks like seed library and library of things might be good to do some more deep dives into how we do that and how we make that work.
Thank you, Benita. You certainly have a lot of things going on in the Port of Adelaide Enfield, and it's great to see that libraries do so much work in this area. And from what we see on the screen, we see a lot of libraries that do seed libraries and recycling and makerspace and craft and other things. So I think libraries are important to drive that. And I was thinking that in my own community, there are small things like a street library and a free pantry. Then the middle thing is the library. They provide that circular hub at the middle level, many activities that go on. And then the larger projects that Shani talked about were the transfer stations and things like that. So it's actually making people aware about what's in your community and how can you access, and then it's not a scary thing to access as well. So I think that point is getting people into the library or getting the library out to where these activities are going on is important. We've got a few minutes if anyone wants to ask a question of Benita.
Sharon has put one in the chat around asking what's a really a circular initiative that had a strong uptake. Seeing everybody talking about the seed libraries in the meeting just then, so that was very popular. We have had a seed library at a couple of our branches, more popular than we could really sustain. You need as many people donating seeds as you do taking them. So I think it was really very popular, and it works if people have harvested their own seeds and are able to donate some, but otherwise it then became a matter of us then buying the seeds and making them available, and there was a budget implication to that. And it's also quite resource heavy in then dividing those seeds up into smaller sharing packages. So that's been popular but challenging. The sewing classes have been very popular and a lot less resource intensive in terms of people, the core group of volunteers that are really dedicated, and a pretty consistent demand for people wanting to learn how to sew and improve their sewing skills to be able to make their own clothes and repair their own clothes. So I think that one has been very popular. We will be launching a tool library in the Port Adelaide Library later this year. So that's been based on advice from the STEM team and our makerspace to say what are the tools that will make the most impact in terms of, like Shani mentioned, the drill that only gets used for a few minutes, but for years. What are the other tools like that that will get a lot of use if we can make them available? So we're looking forward to launching that tool library, and we think that that will be also very popular.
Thank you, Benita. Does anyone else want to ask a question of Benita? I was going to ask about how you make sure you collaborate with other areas of your community so that you don't make sure that you're not using scarce resources or there's no competition for this type of area. So do you do that? Do you do in partnerships so that you ensure full collaboration in your community?
I think because we are a fairly big council geographically, it's more about that local neighbourhood hub. So we're aware of where other, say, churches or community groups have a recycling hub or a free little library or a grow free cart. And we're trying to then, we focused on parks as an area of high need that doesn't have a lot of those other things already in place. So I think it's probably around making sure that we're targeting the suburbs in that local level, so we're not competing with the other local initiatives that are already in place.
So you kind of look for gaps, and you would provide a service in that area. Yeah, that's sensible. Well, we've got a question from Simon. How do you make this the norm for most residents instead of just the minority that want to do the right thing?
Isn't that the $1 million question?
It is.
Yeah. I wish I knew the answer to that, Simon. I guess it's probably a multi-pronged approach. Like anything else of trying to get people to change their behaviours, it is making it easy. Sometimes it's mandating a change and forcing them. Sometimes there's fines if people repeatedly put the wrong rubbish in a bin and they get, there's an education opportunity. If they continue, then there might be some other consequences to reinforce it. But I think we just need to keep talking about it and raising the awareness to say this is unsustainable in every meaning of the word. We cannot keep using all of these virtual resources to feed and clothe ourselves and for transport and energy and everything else. So I think it is a matter of keeping to having those conversations and saying, there are other ways of doing this, which means that the resources get reused as much as possible. And that is only going to benefit everybody in terms of the impact on our home, our environment, our planet. It's a big, wicked problem that we all need to do a bit. And I know some people just don't care. And how you get it through to them to say, this is actually really easy and it will make a difference if we all do it.
I think that Shani's statistic on the what difference a circular economy can make is not well known really, and that we need to get that out. And the other thing I wanted to say in answer to Simon's question is, in another life I was a researcher doing education for sustainability, and we did school community partnerships for sustainability, and we went out doing case studies on what young people are doing in kindergartens and primary schools and secondary schools to do with sustainability, growing gardens, community kitchens. So young people, we need to keep that message up to them, and they then hassle their parents, and then they look for opportunities like that. So I think that education for sustainable development is a good way to go, and making sure that that we start right from the word go in life and get the message out there, and hopefully they can have an influence on their parents as well. because that's what we found in our case studies. So that might be a way to do. Anyway, we've just about out of time now, and so I would like to formally thank Shani and Benita for their presentations today, and I'd like to thank the audience for participating so well today. And if you're interested in further ALCN forums, we're going to have a series of forums next year, and I know we've already got another one maybe on climate action planned, so that the City of Canning might do for us, so in Western Australia. So if you want to be part of our network, you can join us, and you can actually suggest topics, and you're welcome to attend our forums for next year as well. So thank you very much for your attendance today, and thank you for the resources. Sharon will send you all out a recording and a list of resources, so you can go away and make a difference in your community. Thank you.
Thanks, Leonie. Thanks, Benita.